Hi, I'm Jeff Boyd, Democratic candidate for the March 20th, 2018 primary election for the office of sheriff in Rock Island County. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something that had come up in the investigation that you may or may not find of interest. It involves a tracking device that was placed on my squad car that was assigned to me. As I mentioned to you earlier, it was the mid to latter part of June, sometime after June 17th, that I found out the Illinois State Police were interviewing people, deputies, one deputy at that time, for a complaint that had been lodged against me. I immediately contacted them. I had 2 or 3 telephone conversations with Special Agent Jorge Fonseca. And on July 2nd, my last telephone conversation with him, it culminated in a voluntary interview interrogation that was set up for July 8th. On July 2nd of 2014, after my telephone conversation with Special Agent Fonseca, I contacted the Rock Island County State's Attorney, as I mentioned before, and we had a conversation. And at which time all my evidence was shown to him, which included 2 citations, hard copies of relevant information, a video, and my story that ended with him telling me that the appellate prosecutor would have to take a look at that information, but to turn it over to Special Agent Fonseca at my interview on July 8th. I met with the Illinois State Police voluntarily on July 8th, 2014. After the interview, Assistant Attorney General David Navarro presented himself and told me that he would be handling the case. And at that time, I took Special Agent Fonseca and Special Agent Murphy and Assistant Attorney General David Navarro to the various locations where there had been reckless driving and traffic incidents that I mentioned in my interrogation. After showing them all the locations, we met back at a parking lot near I-74. They were down from Chicago and they were needing to get back. And I had asked them at that time, what do you suggest I do moving forward with these traffic incidents? It was concerning me that they were starting to get dangerous, the behavior exhibited. Special Agent Fonseca told me to continue doing what I'm doing, but he would actually call Assistant Attorney General David Navarro and ask him. And I had mentioned to Special Agent Fonseca, well, doing what I'm doing got me an interview with you, so I would like to know what Assistant Attorney General Navarro suggests. A short time later, I received a call back from Special Agent Fonseca telling me that if I had a camera or if I had some sort of recording device, which I didn't, to utilize it and continue doing what I'm doing, and that if there were another incident, contact him. And I told him that's what I would do. Now keep in mind, as I told you before, I had made a mistake by continuing with that investigation. At this point, I'm investigating Andrea Fonseca, also known as Andrea Favela. One of the places I had taken him to was the residence, and they had asked me why I was there. And I told them because I was actually looking for different plates. I was looking to see if there was garbage set out, typical things you do in an investigation. And then I continued to do that, looking for various new plates, looking for information to continue the case. They were aware that I was investigating her. So getting back to the tracker, approximately 2 or 3 days after that interview, on or about July 11th or 12th, I found the tracking device on my squad car that was parked in the driveway of my home. I immediately contacted my first attorney, Mike Wang, asking him what he thought I should do with it. After some discussion about various things, he and I agreed that I should put it back on the vehicle and continue doing what I was doing. So I did. Fast forward to August, about the first week or the first 10 days in August, the state police had gone to the sheriff's office and interviewed another deputy. They knew my movements, and I knew that they knew my movements because of the tracking device. And so they had popped in, did a quick interview, and told the deputy to let the sheriff know that they had been there to interview him, because I'd mentioned in my July 8th interview that I was cooperating fully. I did not want them to be going to the homes and giving these deputies Miranda, and that I would leave so they could. And I also informed them that there was a rule that if these deputies were aware of another investigation, by rule, they had immediate obligation to notify me or my designee. My designee at the time was Chief Deputy Gerald Bustos. That was when my chief deputy contacted me wanting to know what was going on. That was when I brought him in to everything. I told him I'd be back down at the department and I would explain it all to him. I did, and from that point forward, every day we had discussions about it. At the day that my attorney advised me to tell my wife was also a day that we had set a special meeting for Rock Island, for the sheriff's office, that I was to attend. I did not attend. I had my chief deputy go instead. And that meeting was attended by members of the state's attorney's office, and there were conversations about me as I spoke to my chief deputy about it the next day. Approximately a day later, the Illinois State Police made a claim to the Assistant Attorney General, Dave Navarro, who contacted my attorney, Mike Wang, saying that they had been monitoring my driving patterns and they believe I knew about the tracking device. And they had requested that I meet with the Illinois State Police to have it removed from my squad car. My attorney contacted me. I agreed to meet with them. I had met them at the Moline Police Department, and they removed the tracking device. The interesting point about that was approximately 2 days from the meeting I'm referencing, 2 or 3 days before, my chief deputy and I pulled into the parking lot together, and I told him about the tracking device. Actually, I told him to look under my vehicle. He saw it. He questioned what it was. I told him it was a tracking device. However, my chief deputy didn't know how long I had known about that tracking device or how long I'd driven with it. So within 48 hours, 72 hours of showing my chief deputy the tracking device, I'm getting a call saying that they've been monitoring my driving patterns and that they appear that they have changed and that they wanted to meet to take it off. So the point I make about that was I had been driving around with the tracking device for almost 2 months by the time they had taken it off. And what I find interesting about that is the moment that I found out that the Illinois State Police were interviewing people and was investigating, I immediately went to them. I fully cooperated, 100%, voluntarily went to an interview and interrogation against the advice of my attorney with the belief, and I still believe this, I'm the sheriff of Rock Island County. If I did something wrong, I did something wrong, but I'm not lawyering up. And during this whole time, I was a little bit taken back that they felt like they needed to have a tracking device on the sheriff's vehicle, given the fact that I was cooperating fully and that I went to them. So those are a couple of points I wanted to get out there and talk about. One thing you need to understand about a tracking device is that it was done legally in my case. There was a search warrant filed in an order from the court involving my phone and I believe the tracking device. And when you put one on a vehicle, you set the gates to where that vehicle trips it. So it's a device that can be used, but what you have to take a look at is at what gate was it tripped. And those gates can be manipulated by the folks using the tracking device. So I thought that was interesting. I thought that's something I'd like to share. There's a few more interesting things that had happened during that investigation, and there will be some more videos. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, my number is 309-948-4205. My website is www.sheriffjeffboyd.com, and my email is sheriffjeffboyd@gmail.com. Thank you.